Well, hey y'all, it's TracyMac, your favorite podcast host of Peace Place Podcast and the BWWP, baby. Don't get it twisted. Listen, we hear people talk about things like purpose and destiny and consciousness, awakening, passion, mission, and vision. And sometimes it feels like a trend. There are times it even feels outright icky or like a scam when people attach fear to it and they use fear mongering and fear tactics and play on your pain principles to make you feel like if you don't get the answers from them, you ain't got nothing and you ain't gonna be nothing. But we all should have the wonderful opportunity to sit with ourselves and say, what is my purpose? And sometimes listen to someone who can break it down for us so we can at least begin to explore it without a lot of outside negative trends or fear mongering to make us feel like we don't know it yet. So when we ask, what is my purpose? Let me see if I can help you. Welcome to Peace Place. Birthed from the heart of a Black woman's experience, still BWWP, baby. Bold, inclusive, and healing. What began as one woman's voice to her sister Nistas has grown into a gathering space where everyone is welcomed, seen, and included. Here, we honor the roots while widening the circle. I'm your favorite podcast host, TracyMac. Let's journey in peace together. And just so we're on the same page, I want to define purpose, not to insult your intelligence, but just so we're kind of on the same page. Purpose simply means the reason for which anything is done, created, or exists. Point blank, period. Purpose can also be defined as aim, or intention or goal. You know, anything created or designed without an intentional use or reason is automatically subject to abnormal or incorrect use. It doesn't matter if it's a pen or a book. If the intended desire or reason is not identified, it's subjected to be misused or even rendered useless, because it would be ridiculous to try to turn pages on a pen or even more outlandish to write with a book, because you know what they are and you know what they're supposed to do. You know, just like you can't criticize a fish for not climbing a tree, you know, or, you know what I'm saying? So when you know the purpose of a thing, it gives you more power to use it for its maximum ability. Those things are designed for a specific and identifiable purpose. Now, that's not to say that they can never be used beyond the initial or intended purpose, but knowing what the purpose of those things are, it just ensures premium function. So if we give things purpose, how much more imperative is it to know our own? Who are you? What is your purpose? And when it comes to wanting to know or discover one's life purpose or individual meaning of life, the questions posed are, what is my purpose? What's my reason for being? What was I created to be or do? And ultimately, who am I? Purpose is or can be your spiritual identity, the who you are. Purpose identifies the layers outside of your human capacity, your purest essence that goes beyond your name, your occupation, your family, your status, your social ties, that intriguing character that everything worthy in your life is attracted to and loves to be associated with. Purpose is who you are before being labeled, categorized, or shaped by opinion. There are people who say, I know my purpose, and they immediately list a job title, education, status, function, service, good deed, or task. Take, for instance, I had a lady when I was coaching, and I said, what's your purpose? She said, well, I'm a CEO of a small Black-owned business. I'm the wife of thus and such. She named her husband, the mother of so-and-so, and everybody in the community knows my father. And I was like, well, what happens if you take all those identifiers away? And like I just did, she went silent. And she was like, oh, I know my purpose. Well, my purpose is to serve the community. And couldn't take that away from her. And in no way am I discounting her information, mine or yours, that may be factual and profitable and necessary for how we navigate through life in our humanity. But I humbly submit to you that there is more to her, them, that, me, and you. Yes, we all have missions and things we may be passionate about doing, but what you do is not who you are. Purpose, being your spiritual identity, lives way beyond the letters in your name, accomplishments, functions, or duties. And it gives meaning and definition to your tangible and intangible existence. It's the core reality of the essence of who you are and how you live. And it has a whole lot to do with the quality of life that you have. And to me, in defining purpose, the most significant aspect of purpose is that the expression of the attributes of the characteristics of God in you, because God created us in God's image. And because we are image bearers, those attributes of God exist in us to carry out in the world. When I was a little girl, I remember thinking that God was a big man that looked like one of the King Henrys, and my original concept of what Father Time looked like. And he sat on a huge throne with light that shone through and around him so bright, you'd have to squint as if you were looking directly into the sun, just to attempt to see the blazing silhouette. And of course he wore a crown, bedazzled and bejeweled. And he had a gold scepter too, because what's a king without a scepter? I thought God had this huge book that looked like my grandparents' family Bible. You know, the one that sat on the coffee table. Maybe your grandparents had one too. Sat on the coffee table in the living room that you couldn't sit in. You know, the one that somebody started writing names in, anniversaries, birthdays, and stopped somewhere around 1973. It had old black and white blurred pictures stuffed inside of relatives I didn't know, a lock of somebody's hair from a first haircut, some obituaries, somebody's wedding or funeral flower pressed by the weight of the pages, and a piece of somebody's Easter speech in it. And though it was a little dusty, you better not touch it, much less read it. What was I doing in their plastic covered living room anyway? You know, the plastic on the couch. That when you sat down on it, if you were allowed to go in there when you went to go get up, the plastic stuck to your legs and you peeled off of it. Yeah. But I thought God had a big book like that. But his book didn't have the gold dust on it. But when I was old enough to listen during Sunday school, I specifically remember being taught that God was omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. And I read it for myself, looked it up in the dictionary as I got older, and I believed it. So that completely messed up my visual. And it also shifted my relationship with God and birthed questions. I thought for a long time and had concluded if God is omnipresent, I could no longer limit God's location to my idea of heaven. There was nowhere God couldn't be, including in me and you and in people I don't like. And if God was omnipotent, I couldn't tie God to just my limited imagination because God had the power to be everywhere, do anything all the time. All of God is everywhere all the time, I concluded. And if God were omniscient, why would God need to write anything down in a book? God knows everything all the time. Now, you see what I mean when I said I had questions too big for the world I lived in? But I began to see and relate to God in a way that questioned my perception and went beyond my limits. I realized and believed God is the creative and all-sustaining power and connecting life force for all there is. That's how I see God. That's how God is to me. That is who God is, and that's enough. And I needed to come to at least begin to answer that question, even though my definition is not finite. It was the start because I needed to figure out, at least in my my pea brain in our humanity. When you think about infinite, omniscient, omnipresence, the best way I could calculate is before I get to answer the question of what is my purpose, I need to figure out who God is to me. So again, and I reiterate, to me, at this point, God is the all creative and all sustaining power and connecting life source to all there is. What do you believe about God? How do you see God? How do you think God sees you? How you see God and how you believe God sees you has a lot to do with how you see yourself, especially through the eyes of purpose. How you see yourself shapes how you view other people. It even affects how I look in the mirror. Once I begin my journey of self-discovery, and it is a lifelong journey indeed, how I saw myself in the mirror began to shift. I no longer looked in the mirror after I washed my face and began to pick out every pimple, every speckle, every blemish, those lines I'm beginning to see when my rosacea acts up, when people wanted me to take my piercing out, when my eyebrows may be growing too fast. And at this age, 56 and a half, I had to get a nose hair trimmer a few years ago. It's like that some hairs get thin in some places, and then the ones in your nose want to act a fool. But I stopped pointing out those things initially. I see them for hygienic purposes. But I stopped pointing it out, and I began to sing love songs to myself because I began to see the God in me, through me, with me, and as me. Some people are afraid of the as, not because they're afraid of being sacrilegious, because none of us are big G, but some people are afraid to say as God because of the responsibility that comes with it. I've said time and time again that if dogs beget dogs, cats beget cats, trees bear after their own kind, gods beget what? Never to be big G, but the little g, we have the privilege and the responsibility. So how you see yourself, again, shapes how you view other people as well. Individually, we cannot adequately represent the infinite attributes of a magnificent deity, but each of us has a purpose identified by unique expressions, and collectively, we are comprised of all God is. It reveals our connection to others and the connection with ourselves. And it's not about being some out of touch cream puff or pushover, because purpose doesn't discount aggression, anger, a bad attitude, unhappiness, displeasure, frustration, annoyance, cellulite, a menopause muffin top, inadequacies, ignorances, even willful ignorances, cognitive dissonance. Purpose can use it all if you let it. Purpose can use wisdom and the wisdom of passion to deploy those traits when it's necessary, to use them for your mission. But purpose and love and peace won't allow it to control you or get out of control. Purpose allows the reason for your original intent to merge and emerge rather than projecting a self-image solely based on ignorant opinions of others. Because if we use the job, the relationship status, the children, the family history, our education to define us, we sell ourselves short from our divine DNA. And as my friend Cherie Walston told me about 5 to 8 years ago, somewhere in between there, that DNA, you have a genetic human DNA, but DNA in a spiritual sense are your divine natural abilities that are not tied to. And Mama have to do a part 2 about this already because I'm feeling it in my bones. But knowing your purpose at this stage helps you design your vision and live your best dreams wide awake. Your purpose or spiritual identity is an innate GPS, not only knowing why you are here, but where you are and how to navigate. Purpose is an inside job. It's not a path you walk out, but it is an identity you walk in. And it is the priceless treasure you are here to be. So as I conclude, I'll leave you with this. Until I come back with part 2, we may have to break it up in more than 2. Ask yourself this question. What do I believe about purpose? You've heard what TracyMac has said. Now what say you? I'm grateful and I love y'all for real. Much love and peace. Thank you for spending time with me at Peace Place. This is an inclusive space where we honor the wisdom of Black women while welcoming every heart ready to heal and flourish. To my sister nieces and to all of you who are part of this circle, you belong here. Until next time, rest is resistance, joy is resistance, and peace is your birthright. Stay rooted, stay included. I'm grateful and I love y'all for real. Much love and peace.